G'day all, and welcome to another exciting episode of me teaching you something new. And if I'm not teaching you something new, then maybe you're better off skipping ahead on this one here. Hopefully it is something new for you guys this time round, because we're going through multi-camera setups. Some of you may have already done this, which I highly doubt, because it's quite a impressive tool that a lot of people tend to neglect. Now, what is multicam and when do we use it? So multicam is a way of working with your editing system. Okay, it's not a way of working with your footage. Well, it is a way of working with your footage. Wow, I just totally contradicted myself. But more importantly, it's a way of working with your editing system. So you are editing in a very different style to what you may do based off a narrative film or something like that. So every time that you make a different type of film, your environment, your workflow is going to change and adapt to work with that project that you're working on. And in this case, we're going to be looking at multicam. And multicam is one of those things that you would use in things like music videos, which is something I've got here. But you may also use them for live events, and you would use them for broadcasts. So for sports events and sports shows and things like that. Essentially, anywhere where you'd shoot the same thing, but with different cameras or different positions of the camera, different setups. And with a music video, for this music video, we have an artist who is playing the song over and over and over again, and we're just shifting the camera from one angle to another. So that is our way of setting this up for multicam. So it's a great tool to use, and I hope that a lot of you guys will use it more after I've shown you how to use it here today. Okay, so here we go. We've got our clips in our bin, as you would normally do. I've got some studio stuff. I've got some more studio stuff, and I've got some outdoor stuff. I've got some stuff near the water and all that sort of thing. So there's some cool shots in there ready for me to start with, okay? Now I need to start working them together into a multicam environment. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I'm going to go to my bin, all my footage that I've imported. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my duration tab, and I'm just going to right click and sort in ascending column. Now the reason why I'm doing that is because I know, looking down here, that all these tracks running down here, the 4 minutes and, well, even like 3:45 and that sort of stuff, these tracks here would all be the entire song from start to finish. So I'm definitely going to want to multicam that stuff here. But then I go up to these shots up here, and some of them are quite short. Now, I would say that these 4-second ones and these 3-second ones, that could be something I might use as a bit of coverage, maybe. Yeah, something I might use for a bit of coverage. But then, you know, we've got shots like this where you might have accidentally pressed record or something like that, and you've just quickly changed it. So we're probably not going to use any of those in terms of setting up our multicam. But let's go down a little bit further. We get to the 24-second mark. Let's look in particular at, say, this one here. Okay. Now, if we look, before we do, actually, let's just look at that one there. But we're going to look at one of these ones down here first, and just press play. Now you can clearly hear that there is a supply track underneath him actually playing his guitar. So it's a reference track. It's his song that he's created, and we are playing it back to him so he can play the music and match the tempo and the rhythm of what he actually recorded. So when we do try and cut it all together, it should match quite seamlessly. The problem being is when you're shooting a music video like this where you've got an artist just singing and playing to camera, is that the intro, the start point of the song, is always going to be really tricky, okay? And regardless of how good an artist is, they're not going to nail that sort of intro very easily. It's going to be something that's going to be quite challenging. So one thing I tend to do, a little trick that I tend to do, is I will capture their performance from start to finish using the supply track and playing it back over and over and over again, and them doing it over and over again. But after we've done it quite a few times, I'll then say, okay, let's film you doing the intro, just the intro section, the first 20-30 seconds of the song. Now, the reason why I do that is because the musician is far more natural and far more relaxed in terms of the song starting, because they have control over when the song is going to start now. So they will actually be able to play to the speed that's required. And that's done in two ways. One is because they're feeling more relaxed. They're not listening for a track to cue them in. But also, they've done the other versions of the song over and over and over again, that now it's just quite easy for them to actually just go ahead and play it. Okay, so that's that little bit there. I've chewed your ear off already, and it's only the very start of this capture. Let me just double check that I am recording, because funnily enough, I've already done this tutorial and I realized that I hadn't recorded. It's been a long day. Okay, so that's great. It's all recording. Let's check out these tracks here. So the ones that, let's say, I'm going to take it from this one here. I'm going to scroll down to the very bottom and I'm going to grab these tracks here. Now what I'm doing is I've shift selected all of these tracks, okay? Because I want to create a multicam environment with all of these tracks in here, okay? So now what I do, sorry, just choked on my own amazing skills. Okay, so I've selected all those tracks and I want to create a multicam environment with all these tracks. So what I do now is I will right click on my mouse and I can click on this tab here, which is called Group Clips. Now if I click on that, it's going to ask us, how are we going to sync these clips? We can sync them through in points, out points, time codes if we're referencing time codes, or the final option down the bottom here is waveform analysis. Now what that means is it's going to go through when it's going to analyze the waveforms of each of the tracks, and wherever it sees consistencies, it's going to line up those tracks with each other. Okay? Now for these tracks down here, the 4-minute versions and the 3-minute version, they're all going to work perfectly. But these tracks up here, 2 minutes, 1 minute, 50 seconds, that sort of thing, there may be some problems there that we need to fix after we do our multicam setup, which is fine. We can do that. Now, as I said, this is one of the ways of doing it. Right click, group clips, and then go through waveform analysis. The other alternative is, if you want to be very finicky with where everything is positioned, you can find the cue point. So go, okay, he starts playing guitar right there, so that's where I want to mark it from. So you put a mark there, and you do the same for each of the individual clips down there. Now you can do it this way. I'm going to clear that mark. You can do it that way. Select all the clips, right click, group clips, and instead of going waveform analysis, you're going to go in points. Now that's really handy if you're capturing a music video on location. We've got noise of the ocean here, but I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. But if you're in a streetscape where you've got lots of traffic and stuff like that, and your speaker's not that powerful in terms of playback, you may not be able to get the clear waveforms that you need to get a nice clean sync by going group and waveform analysis. But if you go through each of the clips individually and put a mark where the song starts, you can group the clips through endpoints. So where you put that mark, and then it's just going to group them all together that way. Okay, so that's one way of getting our group together for multicam. The other way is as simple as this. We just click, drag, and drop them into the timeline. Now it's going to drop all of those clips into the timeline in one straight line here. Just wait for it to do its thing. It's been a long day. Okay, there we go. So we've now got all our clips in our timeline. What I'm going to do now is just select to the right. So put my playhead at the start, select to the right. And now I'm going to right click in here and I'm going to go to waveform sync. So whereas beforehand we go group and then select waveform analysis, in this one here we're going waveform sync. So if I click on that, that's going to sync all these tracks up together and create a nice sort of even sort of playhead. Okay, so let's do that. Now it's going to scan through the waveforms and it's going to layer them on top of each other. So what we're going to end up here with is probably like 24 video tracks or something, and then 48 audio tracks running underneath sort of thing. And we're going to need to remove those audio tracks later on, but this is just a good starting point. So it's just going to scan through and do that. So as they say in the cookbooks, I'm going to do here's something I prepared earlier, but actually I didn't because I'm doing it right now. So that doesn't make sense.